News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, fighting between Israel and Iran is now into its fourth day with no sign of easing. Iran has fired several waves of drones and missiles over the last 24 hours. Israel has continued hitting the Islamic Republic's capital, Tehran, killing one more senior military official. We get the very latest from Bloomberg's Stuart Livingston Wallace, who heads our coverage of the Middle East.
It's a combination of what appear to be very precise strikes by Israel on Iranian targets, and that largely encompasses nuclear sites, military sites. And it does appear at this stage, and given everything we've seen over the last 4 days, that Israel now more or less has a free hand within Iran. And it's been quite surprising, I suppose, how little response Iran seems to have to those strikes. And then on the other side, it's been sort of throwing back ballistic missiles and drones in very large quantities. And that seems to be a lot less precise. I mean, largely the strategy there seems to be to try and overwhelm Israel's rather impressive air defenses.
Bloomberg's Stuart Livingston Wallace reports the casualty toll is rising. Iran's government says 224 people have been killed, while Israel says Iranian attacks killed 24 people and injured more than 500.
Nathan, President Trump says he believes Israel and Iran could eventually reach a peace agreement, but suggested they may have to continue their conflict before coming to the negotiating table. The president spoke to reporters as he prepared to board Marine One.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
And President Trump speaking before he left to attend the G7 summit in Canada. The conflict threatens to open a new rift at the high-level gathering of world leaders. We get more from Bloomberg's David Gura in Alberta, Canada.
Conflict in the Middle East is casting a shadow over this meeting of the Group of Seven, even if it hasn't scuttled the official agenda. Several world leaders have called on Iran and Israel to de-escalate the situation, and it's unclear if the group will issue a formal statement on the conflict. A broader joint communique is not in the cards. Prime Minister Mark Carney is being careful not to upset President Trump, who withdrew from that agreement the last time Canada hosted the G7 in 2018. In Banff, Alberta, Canada, I'm David Gura, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, David, thank you. Back on this side of the border, President Trump appears to be doubling down on mass deportations after a weekend of protests across the country. In a Truth Social post last night, the president called on ICE agents to expand deportations in the largest U.S. cities, including Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California says the raids are going too far.
For all the talk about the focus and targeting of violent criminals, if that's all the Trump administration was doing, there would be no debate. But as you're hearing more and more stories of undocumented, long-term residents of the United States who are otherwise law-abiding, that's who's being targeted.
California Senator Alex Padilla appeared on CBS's Face the Nation, heard Sundays on Bloomberg Radio. Last week, President Trump appeared to acknowledge the impact his policies have had on rural communities. He promised changes to protect farm and hotel workers.
Nathan, a manhunt that lasted much of the weekend is over in Minnesota. A suspect is in custody in the killing of Democratic state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband and the shooting of State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says the suspect, 57-year-old Vance Bolter, was arrested after a trail camera picked him up near his farm. The FBI had been offering $50,000 for information leading to his arrest.
To the law enforcement who stand here and the hundreds who are involved in this, the state of Minnesota owes you a deep debt of gratitude. Thank you. You ran towards the danger and you served the state of Minnesota.
Governor Walz announced the arrest last night. Authorities are still investigating a motive behind the attack. A government document seen by Bloomberg News points to a purported hit list at the crime scene that included the names of several Minnesota politicians and abortion providers in the state. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.